Good morning. It is Monday, April 24th, 2023, the year of Armageddon. What's up, everybody? Hope all is well in this cold, cruel, but blessed world. It is. I hope you had a weekend. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you had a profitable weekend. Either way, hope you had a hope you're alive and you survived. So, um yeah, CDN, give me a few minutes. I'll do some shout outs and I'll bring in. So, CDN wants to come in, which is good because don't really have a whole lot to say. I say that, but then I usually do have a lot to say. But anyways, I didn't have anything planned other than look at a low board, look at a couple of lanes. But if CDN wants to come in, we'll let him in. But give me a few minutes, please, sir, and then we'll. I just want to get some thoughts out there, and then also just do shout outs. People like their shout outs. Hope you have your good coffee this morning. A little chilly this morning, so I recognize that my Snorelord mugs are small, right? I get that a lot. Um, but I haven't. I'm going to have to use a different distributor for bigger mugs, unless I'm missing an option there in Teespring. But anyways, um, so I got the like trucking here Yeti mug, so I can so I don't have to get up and refill it and doesn't get cold or whatever. So, but anyways, been I finished a book yesterday, or no, a couple of days ago. I'm onto a new sales book that CDN sent me. What else is going on? Oh, we close on a house tomorrow. We sold our other house, and so that will be. So I'll be ill. I'll be unapproachable for half a day tomorrow, and then other than that, we're gaining some clients. Primarily two new contractors this week at Like Trucking, and they want me to dispatch them, so that'll be good. That'll be interesting. Um, and other than that, we're doing okay. I thought I was going to have to hit the road next week, but that may not be the case, depending on what freight's doing or whatever. I noticed that volumes jumped up last week, but overall for the year they're down 55%. According to the DAT trend lines. And so what that tells you is that there's literally more than half of the loads we had last year. So of course rates are going to be down. People are panicking, people are freaking out. There's a lot of YouTube videos with the title Trucking Bloodbath and trucking's going away and all that stuff. And here's my thoughts, and I'll bring CN here after I do comments. Nothing ever really truly goes away. It just changes, right? So it could change. You might have to change how you do business. In other words, perfect example. What did the vid show us? That you had to learn how to pivot and you had to learn how to do things. So a lot of restaurants had to learn how to get a part of the delivery thing so they could stay open. A lot of mom and pop businesses had to learn how to create an online presence so they can compete with the Amazons and the Walmart.coms if they want to sell their product that, because they weren't allowed to be open. And the fact that you live in a country where they told you that you couldn't open your store should set some alarms off. But that's a different topic for a different day on the other channel. And so these people that sound the alarms that, the spot market's going away and all this other stuff, it's things could always go away. But in reality, you just see them change, right? There's a lot of brokers moving a lot of loads that don't even touch the low boards because of all the BS that's going on with them, especially the DAT. DAT's got, I don't know, I don't think they do any screening process when it comes to these mom and pop double brokering or illegal brokering outfits. And what that's done is it's affected the dispatch service. So, anyways, let's do some shout outs and then we'll bring CDN in. Let's see here. CB, good morning. You're always first, man. You're very dedicated to the craft. I appreciate you. This Trucking Live, good morning. Grafton, good morning. Jesse, what's up, man? Haven't seen you in a minute. Stuart, what's up? Good morning. Matt, good morning. Like you're mourning something. Tennessee Trucking, good morning, sir. Don Schonger, hello. My name is Nobody, good morning. Jerome, good morning. Cowardly Lion. That's funny. Great. Sky is falling, said Chicken Little. Don't think so myself. And look, saying that the sky's falling is great for views. You know, I call it sensationalism. There's a bunch of these Christian YouTube channels that are doing that now. Oh man, the end of the days are here, you know, and here's a sign, and they're going into specifics. And anybody who's read a minute of Revelation can see that they're off. Now, do I believe we're in spiritual warfare? Absolutely, but at the same time, that's what creates views. That's what creates traffic. That's how the YouTube algorithm works, right? You got to tell the world that the sky's falling. Jason, what's up? Good morning. Enjoying a day or two at home. Good deal, Jason. Good deal. You've worked hard. You deserve it. Smooth Trucking, what's up? Pigtail, good morning. SST, what's up? You like trucking. It is. That's the logo. It's like, it's funny. You know, I'll pull up at a guard shack and I'm like, oh, what's the name of your company? I like trucking. Ha, do you really? You know, and they'll actually put that on the, you know, because that logo can be very deceiving. But anyways, it's a good coffee holder cup too. Lance, we always appreciate CDN's outlook. Yep, I will be bringing them on. Let's see, Gary Bates, what's up? How can I score a cool hat like that? Well, you know who to talk to. Let's see, when you own a truck and trailer, do you ever get asked to help move your friends? Steve's moving storage. I did. I was asked, like, we were going to use my truck to move my mom's stuff up to New York, but then there was some complications, and the road that she lives down is a 5-ton limit road, and we would end up having to rent a truck anyways to go from whatever truck stop. There's no truck stops near her, so it's just easier to rent a U-Haul or a Penske truck, and I took the stuff down there myself. So let's see. My ex-wife just went away. She didn't change. SST, what's up? Says CB, or has zero life, LOL. Mr. Charles, good morning. PRTV. Fear and Loathing in Missouri. What's up? Schmitty Trucking, good morning. Taking my break in Jersey before heading home. That doesn't sound like a break. Oh, we got a new member, DD McKee, 241. Thank you very much for becoming a YouTube member. YouTube memberships do exist. I have 4 different levels. One's really expensive, so don't do that one. That one's, I don't know, that's me being egotistical. But the other 3, $2.99, $9.99, and $19.99, Headbanger, Metalhead, and Metal Army. So, and the other one is a consultation if you want to, if you need some insight. I might be able to help you out, look outside the box, because that seems to be what my specialty is. Jason says, have a good life. Have a good day. Have a good life. Good day, everyone. Got to go visit my brother. Well, tell your brother we said hi. All right, so let's do this here. All right, CDN, if you're still in there, I will email you the link. I'd like to hear what you have to say this morning. Compose. And let's see. Oh, I don't know how to use Gmail, apparently. All right. Bear with me, people. Man, this microphone's weird, man. Sometimes it's like super sensitive, and then other times it's like I can barely hear myself. It's weird. All right, CDN, I just sent it. So this is the first of your lives I've been able to catch. I enjoy your shows, man. Well, thank you, McGee. I'm going to call you McGee. I do what I can. I just talk about, I don't know, spot market stuff. The other channel, if you want, subscribe to that. I've been doing this 30-day walks. I've been fasting, and this app I've been downloading, it's been great. So, Mr. Wilson, I see you in here. Please be respectful. Good morning. And so, out of respect to me, at least, Mr. Wilson. But no, I appreciate that. Everybody, check out the other channels. Kind of doing the lives every other morning on the other channel has helped a little bit. The morning walks have been great. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to accomplish that tomorrow because we got a big day tomorrow, and the weather is not going to be supreme. So that's a good friend you have in CDN, Steve. Not many friends would show up consistently. That is true, Mr. Wilson. Only for you, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks. What's up, Mr. CDN?
Good morning. Let's see. Do I have a camera? Oh, how about if I do that? That'll be helpful.
I was like, why is it dark? What's up, man?
Well, how's it going? So, how's your technique? How's your presentation?
On what?
Well, I just came from, my background is Ukrainian, and my son's been dancing for 11 years. So this past weekend was his final. He's finishing, and this was his last year. So 11 years consistently dancing, and he was in the competition. I watched this adjudicator throughout the weekend, and it's not much different than you playing in your band and music, but how does art and culture and dance have anything to do with trucking? Well, it actually has everything. And why is that? Presentation. When you had your band and you're playing, did you just go up there and stand there and play, or did you practice your presentation? Right? 50% of it is your presentation, because if you come out there and basically the whole point was this adjudicator's goal, he wanted to see from the dancers, because we saw all kinds of ages, all kinds of skill levels throughout the weekend, but he wanted to see how well you were rehearsed. That time you spent rehearsing, and then you bring that presentation out there. Did it look easy? Were you able to smile and look like you're enjoying yourself? How much are you practicing? When you make a 30-second TV commercial that we see, how many hours is spent? How many cuts and takes are made to get that 30-second hit? So those of you that are the ones that have been complaining about the brokers, how's your technique? How much time have you spent to help yourself as a business? Have you had mentors? If you're upset with brokers and not happy with the brokers, what have you done? How much technique time have you spent in the past month, 2 months to help you out? Who's mentoring you for sales? What is your sales background? And here, Steve, if you can even, if you need to step away, go grab a piece of napkin, blank napkin. Everyone grab a piece of napkin. Wherever you are, grab something to write down. Grab a piece of paper. We're going to go through a little experiment. Let me just grab my pen.
All right. I got my piece of paper.
Okay. So hopefully everyone's got it. So what we're going to do, we're going to write down 5 characteristics, 5 things. If you had to talk to either you're a carrier and you're going to call a new broker, you're calling a shipper, you have 5 characteristics you need to write down. Like five keywords that would then on this piece of paper. So 5 keywords. An example could be integrity. So take 2 seconds here And you can play your Jeopardy music, and we'll each write down our 5 characteristics real quick here.
Characteristics of what?
That you would use to sell your trucking business and yourself. You have
Okay.
You got 5. Just give yourself 5 characteristics. Like it doesn't have to be long. 5 words. 5 words that help as a starting point. So 5 things that tell about yourself. I'll give you my examples, and I'll share them in a moment here.
Done.
Okay.
I win.
You did win. You did win. Okay, I got mine now. So
right.
I don't know if it's going to show, but I started out with integrity, consistency, single point of contact, legality, education, and network.
You want to hear my 5?
Sure.
I put honesty, integrity, knowledge, pride, and consistency.
There we go. So not too far off, right? So the point is, where do we go with this, right? So why don't we can make a quick roll call here just as a scenario. So, and for the audience to know that this has not been rehearsed, I haven't talked to Steve beforehand or anything, and Steve can attest to that. And
Yeah,
well, I
that's
guess
true.
yeah. So let's assume I just changed brokerages. I had to leave my brokerage for whatever reason, and I'm trying to rebuild my carrier base. So I don't know you from Adam. I found your trucking company, and I call you up. This is completely off the cuff.
Okay.
So, and I want you don't even know what my first question is going to be, but I want you to say no. Okay. So imagine I could dial you up and say, imagine you pick up the phone. So go ahead and just say good morning, something like that.
Good morning. How can I help you, sir?
Hey, good morning. My name is Rob, and just want to see, do you have a few moments right now?
No.
How about Wednesday morning at 9:30? Can I get 7 minutes of your time?
Yeah, we can do that.
Great. Okay. So you see, that was the first step. I didn't just jump in, pick up the phone, and start talking to you. I called to see if you have a few moments. I could have made it a little bit more of an introduction, just saying, "This is Rob with ABC Freight Brokerage. Do you have a few moments?" And if you said no, that's so. Always seek advice to gain momentum, to move the conversation forward, right?
Yeah.
So let's move forward now. It's Wednesday morning. The phone rings, and it's 9:30. Okay. So good morning, Steve. This is Rob. I called you on Monday. I know you were busy, so I'm calling you back on Wednesday at 9:30, as you said you had a few minutes. So I'll keep it quick, because I know you're a busy person. I found your company. I also found that you do a morning YouTube channel. I'm really impressed on your channel, and I wanted to learn more about your carrier. And I kind of wanted to see if I could share a little bit about my brokerage, because I recently changed to a new brokerage. But I come with a lot of experience. I have got 16 years of experience, but I'm new to this brokerage. But the reason I switched to this brokerage is because their longevity. I've been with this brokerage, has been in the industry for up to 46 years. We've got a network that's phenomenal, and I want to see if I could, share with you a little bit more information about our brokerage, and see if maybe we could get connected. Would that work for you?
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. Yeah, let me get some paper and a pen, and we'll have a conversation. I should have a few minutes right now.
Okay. So what I can do is we can go through. Have you heard of RMIS?
Yes.
So our company makes the setup process real easy through the RMIS. if what I can do is I can do a pre-qual just by simply putting your MC number. Would I be able to enter that right now? And you don't have to give it to me, but just pretend you just say yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if you like, or if it's easier, if you pass me your email, I can send you a quick test email and I can forward that to you. And then this way I can send you a link right in there, and then I can just walk you through real quick the process to make sure that you're on board in a real easy way, if that would work for you. And then what I also, once we get that going, we make sure that we're both qualified to work together, and you can check our company. I'll give you our MC number so that you can actually verify that we're credit worthy for your business. And then we can discuss some of the lanes, and maybe through this, I can then connect. And if there's lanes that I may not have, maybe I can connect you to some of the agents and through our carrier services that can get you, that maybe help out some of your other carriers.
That would be great. Do you post a lot on the low boards, or are you looking for dedicated carriers so you don't have to post?
I would say it's a mixture. There's some loads posted, but I think a lot of our agents have spot market freight, but they kind of tend to give it to their network of carriers first. Then if they haven't covered it, then some they post it, but a lot of them have built up a bit of a network. So it's not necessarily they have a contract, but they have a network of carriers that they cover their loads with. So it's kind of a hybrid approach in that regard, because each agent is separate. So I can't speak for each agent, but I can help connect.
What kind of freight do you primarily specialize in?
Well, myself, I'm a generalist. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I do some flatbed, some van, a little bit of reefer. But we have agents that are specifically reefer, some flatbed, some that are just dry van, some that are just over dimensions. So we got a mixture across the board. And that's where, once you're set up, it's much easier that I can then create the network to show that you're set up. Because if you're not set up, then they're just going to, well, the first thing they're all going to ask is this carrier pre-qualified? So if we go through that setup process, then I can follow up with you in a short period of time and then make sure that we're up and running. And then from there, you can maybe identify, it might be faster if you identify some of the lanes that you're looking after, and then I can send that to my carrier services team and CC you into the email, and then start branching out from there.
Excellent. Yeah, we have about 20 trucks, and we've got drivers that run all 48 states, so we can definitely help you out. We're always looking for new lanes, good brokers to have relationships with, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Great. Now, so the point of this little exercise, yes, this is simple, and I should have clarified it, is when I went in with 3 goals. One was to get his approval to actually talk, to get his email, and get your MC number. Right now, I could possibly find that, but take that when you're trying to sell yourself to a shipper. You got to go in with 3. Sometimes you're not going to get it right away. You need to have 3 goals, right? You go into a call and you have 3 goals and you come out with minimum 1, right? You have a short period of time to present yourself, and you go in with 3 and you come out with 1. And sometimes it's a process. You got to, next time you go into 3 and you come out with 1. So the first call you make to someone, and even if it's a broker, you might just have to, the most thing you might get is the first name of the decision maker. That's all you may get, and that's a win. So the point is, when you look at, as a musician, and you look at athletes, when they are playing their game, they're doing their 2-minute, 2.5-minute, 3-minute dance or song on stage. It takes hours and hours of practice. Those little details, like I'm sure that you've written a song and there's a part in the song that somehow someone in your band keeps falling off beat, right? Boom, like in music, there's that boom boom chuck, boom boom chuck, boom boom chuck. That's the simplicity of music, and that applies to. And yesterday, the adjudicator, there's this particular step, and one of the main things he kept bringing up, and there's in this particular region in which they were, the type of dance that they were doing, there's this little step in it, and almost consistent message from the adjudicator. This guy was so good. There's this last little step at the end, and he kept saying everyone's petering off. They're not finishing it. Like they're starting it, but they're not finishing it. And that's no different than sales. You got to have your boom boom chuck. You got to have your beat. Are you getting onto the beat of the person that you're talking to? And that's and how you get there. You got to practice. Can you take the 5 qualities that you wrote down, open up PowerPoint, or open up Google Slides and turn that into a presentation, one slide describing each of those qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have the opportunity to set up a further Zoom call with that person, can you take those qualities to why? But what was the first thing you have to do? And I actually didn't do a very good job, is I needed to question more to identify what is your current needs. That's the other part. I didn't do enough there because we're just trying to be quick here. But the point is, are you actually taking the time to set up what are your qualities and how are you going to defend those? But more so is the questionings that you ask to identify the needs. And when you identify the needs, that starts to set the tempo, the boom, boom. And then the chuck is your qualities that match that. So it gets you to the beat of being on the person you're trying to sell your services to.
Well, let me throw something in here, okay? So the other ability that a musician has to have, if we're going to use this music analogy, and I know this for a fact, is improvise, being able to bounce off the other musicians. So whenever the band would create a song, I'd go over a riff, the drummer would play something, and then they're like, okay, what would I want to hear next? And so we'd bounce off each other. Now in our conversation, our mock conversation that we had, you didn't tell me what you needed. So what I did is I improvised and I told you that we were, a 20 truck company with carriers, with contractors that run all over, to kind of sell myself to you, even though I don't know who you are, basically presenting a possible need that you have. You might be like, wow, 20 truck carrier that goes all 48, man, this could really help me out. The only thing I did not reveal is the dispatch service. But I think later, if the conversation would have been more in depth, I would have told you that I also dispatch as well, and I've got 4 or 5 of our own drivers underneath me, and in my dispatch, and then I've also got a couple outside carriers, and so that would have revealed that not only I'm not just another carrier, but also that I have maybe more value than the next guy you're going to call. So,
The
and I
band
did.
doesn't play the music plays the band. I don't know about that, CB. Cool. That's an interesting concept. I don't know if that's really true. I mean, well, to a degree, but take, for example, in music, you start with the lyrics, right? You have lyrics, which just like the choreographer, you start with that. They both have that. But now choreographers, based on the music piece that they've selected, just like a musician like you may have someone says, Steve, I got these lyrics. They really resonate with you. I think you would just be the perfect person to sing this lyric. Okay. So you look at the lyrics and you're reading the lyrics and you're like, okay, I'm grooving these lyrics. I like these lyrics. I can believe into this. So now you got to find the beat. So now, yes. So it takes the choreographer to create the steps or the song, the singer to sing those lyrics. And then you got to find that boom, boom, chuck. And then if the whole band believes into it as well, then it can, then maybe it ties together. But it takes all of that, right? You got to have a good piece of music, the choreographer, and the dancers to actually execute. And that's no different than you have a piece of written lyrics or a movie that's being produced. And you start with the script, and then you got actors that can believe into the script, and then you got a director that's going to direct it, and it takes all of that to come together. So,
well, to CB's point, so band doesn't play music, music plays the band. From a musician's standpoint, that's true. There's not one set formula, and that's why you could I've jammed with the most skilled musicians that knew more theory, that could outplay me on the guitar, but yet they couldn't compose a song. And so when it comes to, if you want to relate that to sales, you can have the best script, but if you don't know how to talk to people, I mean, that's the problem with most these robocalls is someone talks to you and they give you their spiel, but then when you start asking them questions, and I have this ability to find the brokers that don't have the ability to talk to people, and so to CB's comment, there are times when as a musician you have to orchestrate and structure,
yeah, that's fair
but
to
then
say.
other times You have to feel where the musical conversation is going, and that's what I do with the
Okay, so
physical
that actually, so
conversation.
CB does make a great point, because that right there, what you said there, is you have to feel out how the conversation's going. And
Hmm.
that's why when, like, if you haven't made a lot of calls in your time, you need some mentors, because that's how it starts. You go in with a call and you have questions. You say to yourself, if they say yes, then I ask this question. If they say no, then you ask this question. Like, for example, if you would have said to me that yes, if we would have had the further conversation, I was trying to keep it really short, but we would get into, if you're saying yes to getting on board with us, I would obviously be able to confirm your insurance, making sure that we meet all those things. But if you would have said to me, you know what, no, I'm actually not really looking to add any more brokers into our carrier network at this time, I would say, okay, can I ask you a quick question though? Is what's making, like, the brokers that are working well for me, what's really doing so, what are they doing so good for you? Just so I can gain some insight. Maybe through
Hmm.
that, all of a sudden you're like, well, this and that. And then I may hear something that may then all of a sudden ask another question. And it can put into yourself to make you question, like, okay, they're pretty good brokers, but are they really that great? Right. Like, so you're trying to find an angle. And that's what sales is in the world of trucking. Like, what do you think brokers are doing? Brokers are out there that call shippers, are finding a way to identify a need, and they're trying to match the services to that need. And then once they get the freight, then they try to match it to the carrier, right?
I think where a lot of people fail is the next step. For example, at the in the around 2017, 2018, we would go to the Great American Truck Show in Dallas, and Convoy had these kids. They're like young 20s, basically walking around asking why they liked Uber. They're like, what is it that you like about Uber, and what is it that you don't like about Uber? And they were very receptive to what we would tell them. Excuse me. And what was interesting is that for a minute, I actually preferred using Convoy over Uber, when it came to the click and go stuff. Unfortunately, they lost their way, and now I have a lot of issues with them. And it's like sometimes a broker or a carrier will start off with good intentions, but then things change and they lose sight of what their original intentions are, and then the brand is tarnished. And there's a lot of that going on right now with all the layoffs and everything. There's a lot of people that have lost their focus, a lot of companies that forgot why they even started. And 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 so that's part of that improvise. It's like, okay, things change. Again, the spot market is completely different than what it was in 2018. um, with all the different pricing, with all the extremes that we've seen, the highs and the lows, and the what the vid created and all that stuff. And they have not adapted, and carriers have to recognize that they have to adapt as well. It's like what I've noticed is there's a paradigm shift of these mom and pop brokers that that show up with no credit score and a Gmail address on the DAT, or I look them up on Thunder Funding and they don't even, no records found, and what that's doing is that's forcing me to go, you know what, maybe I need to stay off, maybe I need to go back to my email list and approach the brokers that I have relationships with, because if I'm dispatching 4 or 5 or 6 people, I can't make 20 cold calls to these brokers that don't know what they're doing, these mom and pop, possible scammers. And so I've had to adapt. Whereas, like, maybe 3 years ago, it was a lot easier to deal with that kind of stuff because you didn't have all the double brokering. Um, and I don't know. It's just, so there's a lot of things at play that I've had to adapt, adjust, and overcome.
But
And,
that,
and,
you know what it
you know,
ties back to though too,
mhm.
because I've experienced recently the same thing with carriers that called and they don't have, you call them, they say I missed the call and I call right back. They don't even have a voicemail. It just says, it says the name of the cellular provider you've called, the so and so's provider, doesn't have a voicemail set up. Like, really? then they don't have you look up that name of that carrier on the internet. They don't even have a website, and they don't have any presentation about anything. So that's part and parcel of it, right? So if I just come in here and I'm gloomy, like, hey, how's it going, Steve? How's your day doing? Steve, how's it going? Right? Like that presentation, just like a dancer. Is it fake? Is it real? But I think that at the beginning, I asked my son that yesterday because he got complimented by many about his presence. He's not the best technique, but his presence on stage. And he says, well, yeah, at the beginning, because he's young, right? So he says sometimes at the beginning, it's this, I'm pushing the smile, but once I get into the song, it just happens because I'm into the groove, right? So you learn how, because the instructors keep saying smile, right? Like Vaseline on your teeth kind of concept, right? You got to smile. Now that doesn't mean every music piece, depending on what it is, doesn't warrant a smile, depending on what you're doing. So sometimes you have to have a different face depending on what the intent of the song you're singing. If it's not a happy go lucky song, you're not going to be smiling, right? But if it's a deeper song, or if it's a deep dance that you're doing, some emotional thing, you're not going to be wanting to smile. You got to go with the boom boom chuck of what you're presenting. But the point is, if you're a small carrier, or if you're an owner operator for a carrier, take a look. Just type the name of your trucking company into the internet. What comes up? What's your LinkedIn profile? We've talked about this before. What's your website look like? There's a bunch of stuff out there that you can check. Go to what's the name of this other site here? It's kind of a new site. I got to find it here. It's called gohighway.com. And I think I've shared that with you. Gohighway.com. You can try it out, but go to your MC. When you go to gohighway.com and you want to look up a carrier, it tells you everything about I can see every trailer you have, not just you have 5 trailers. No, I got the serial numbers of every trailer. I can see every single stop and what that stop was for. It tells you everything about a carrier. So gohighway.com. And so, and again, that ties back to the integrity piece, right? Integrity. That's kind of a real big thing for me, is the integrity piece. And I think I've done it before, but I'm going to do it again here. I'll drop it into the comments. I'll go here. And I have an article. This article is fairly in depth. It's a hard read. It's not super hard, but it's a moderate read. And I believe that this is an article, when I was taught it and had it, that basically you need to read it twice. This article, I'm just going to log into your channel, but basically you need to read this article twice. And why I say you need to read it twice is you read it the first day. So if you're a driver and you got your 30-minute break today, read it once. Then again, next day, like so today, if you're, I'm just going to mute myself so I don't sorry. This is the article I'm going to pop into the comments, but read it once today on your 30-minute break, and then read it again tomorrow. And I was introduced to this article 8 years ago, and it really shifted my business. And I do everything integrity. Without it, nothing else matters. Here's the link. So this is a link to my shared drive file for this folder. So basically, anyone wants it, I've given it to you for free. And you just have to click the link, download the PDF, and you can check on your end, Steve, if it works. Save it and do with it what you want. But I can tell you that article, this way you'll after you read the article, it'll help you shape further your business. And again, do you have a mission? Do you have values that you list, even if you don't have them publicly, but do you have that prepared somewhere, that if you want to sell yourself and network and prepare your business to be better aligned with other high-end shippers, high-end brokers, then this article can help you. And Create that presentation for your business. Practice it. Don't just make it up and stumble and fumble. Use as many times. Sometimes you're going to call people, like even if you're not used to calling people, call brokers, talk to them. Use that as a chance to practice, right? Practice and see what you can do. If there's brokers out there that you don't like, instead of complaining about it, if you know you've moved a bunch of loads, but you don't like their recent actions, but you have a history of moving loads with them, call them on it. Find out how you can get in contact with their operations manager, their CEO. Request a meeting. I guarantee, and they might say no. Call back again, just saying, look, I'm looking to have a meeting with the operations manager or the vice president of sales or operations, and just say, look, I'm just looking for 5 minutes. Hey, I have a history. Know your numbers. I did 50 loads with you last year, or 50 loads in the last 2 years, right? And I'm hoping that warrants 5 minutes of time. Share what you update, talk to them. You don't have to yell at them. Share what you're doing, how you've improved your business. And you can ask them what's going on. Like, have they had a big shift in employees? Do they have lots of new staff? Do some questioning to gain insight. And then through that, you can then professionally express your concerns that have been going down and how it's impacting you, and seeing what their response is. And if they just say, if you don't like it, then don't use this. And if that's the way the conversation they want to go, then you know. But sometimes maybe there is a group of young people and there's some manager there. All it takes is one team leader overseeing 6 agents. That team leader has a kind of a style, and these other agents are new or not buying into this team leader, and it can affect the whole bunch. And all of a sudden, when the CEO, someone above that, doesn't realize that the impact that they're having, then all of a sudden you bring this out. Maybe they realize that person's got to get some corrections, or they have to find someone different. So the point is, when you're talking to people, you got to practice. If you've not done enough sales and you want to get into that, if you're in that part of the game, you have to practice. I cannot emphasize enough. It doesn't happen. Maybe there's a few where it just spills off your mouth and you're brilliant. Great. Kudos to you. You didn't have to do a lot of practice, but the only way that you get better with selling yourself is by talking to people more and more and more. You're going to stumble and fumble, and that's what it's about. Stumble and fumble with the small ones, so that when you get the opportunity to talk to someone who matters, you're polished and your presentation is where it needs to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have lost the art of excuse me, of having a hold on, of having a conversation, um, like the art of just a conversation. Cool Trucking brings up a point. Be question, but be non-confrontational. I've called some brokers, and you and I talked about one that was like he had no idea what he was doing, and and when I recognize that, it's very frustrating to me, because if volumes are low and I'm already dealing with lower rates than what I want to work with, and then now I got people that have lost their heart, or they don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
And the other element is when I talk to a broker that is confrontational, and they use the spiel. Well, we move these. I had literally one broker that it took like 8 emails just to get a rate out of him, and it was small 1-2 word sentences. Like, there was no communication whatsoever. And at this point, like, I think after the third email, I generally wouldn't have pursued it, but morbid curiosity got the best of me, and I wanted to see where this was going. And finally, the guy revealed that the low was $1 a mile, and and then he used the line, "We move this all day and every day." I'm like, well, I wasn't confrontational at all. I think there was one point where I did show some frustration. I was like, look, do you need this load moved or not? Why are you having some short sentences with me? And the reality, it took me to understand that this guy was trying to move a load for $1 a mile, and he's probably getting a lot of crap. So either he didn't really want to move the load and he was just messing with me, trying to get me all riled up, or he just didn't know what he was doing and had the personality of a gnat on conversation. And it's a very frustrating process when you're sitting there empty at a truck stop, wondering if you're going to make your truck payment, and then you come across somebody like that, and that's where brokers get a lot of bad names, is because of those situations. So what I recognize is like, you know what, I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to deal with those guys. I don't want to deal with the guys that are trying to move freight for $1 a mile. And for the brokers that weren't price gouged by carriers, they're still working with these carriers. That was the whole purpose of the emails for the last 6 months. They saw that volume was coming down. They saw that it was going to be very competitive for themselves. They saw that brokers were going to try to undercut them, and they saw that it took it doesn't take much to lose a customer at that point, especially when shippers are at their wits end when it comes to cost. So they wanted the dedicated carriers that knew that wouldn't price gouge them, that had reliable service. And now those carriers are being taken care of. Those people aren't on the low boards. Those people aren't on YouTube bitching about everything. Those people are quietly going about their day, trying to make things work, hoping that fuel doesn't go up. And that's the difference between the players and the professionals right now. Everybody can play the game. Anybody can go out and get a football and play football, but it takes real practice and execution and knowledge. And if you don't have that, find the people that do and do what they're doing, and learn from them. And that's kind of what I've done.
Well, now to add to that is, I think obviously the last couple of months when the rates have dropped, it's added a lot of undue stress to carriers with the shift, right? It hasn't been a lot of time to shift. So a couple of things with that is, if you can, I know that it's probably feeling like you're everyone's down in the trenches, swim to the top for a moment. And what I mean by that is, stop for a moment. If you're feeling in the trenches, like it's just, you're trugging along, you're not getting the revenue you want, and you're frustrated with the brokers from the day to day of seeing cheap freight on the boards, but get to the top and then follow the money. Meaning, look where you run. Are you near ports? Are you near the major manufacturers? So let's say you're either in Baltimore, Maryland, or you're in Seattle, somewhere near the ports. Okay. So freight's coming in. Baltimore has a lot of heavy haul coming in, but Seattle also has some roll on, roll off. Start with there. All this freight's coming in. Where's it going? What kind of commodities are there? Maybe some of your next best actual connections may not be a broker, but it could be a freight forwarder. The freight forwarder brings it from they help bring it across the sea from China or from Germany, from Italy, and then it comes to United States. Now it comes from that container. It might go to a destuffing container, and then it has to. They don't bring the container if you have a container that arrives in Seattle or Baltimore, rarely are they sending the whole container all the way into Missouri, right? They're going to destuff it because they have to pay a bunch of fees. Sometimes they do rail it across, but more often than not, they're going to destuff it, put it on a van or flatbed, and then bring it to its final destination. Mm-hmm. So how can you get that piece? Right. So you got to look, you got to stop, and who are the players? Who do you need to connect with? Because I can tell you that when you have those better connections, you're gonna find some stuff that's not visible to the general public. And part of that would be in your practice, your technique, and your presentation. Study your insurance policies, because that's a big factor. What if there's some kind of a created engine inside a container, in a 20-foot container? It's 20 foot by 4 foot wide and 4 foot tall, that can easily go in a van, but it's worth $750,000. Are you set up right now? If I called you or someone called you on a load and you're like, I like the rate and everything else, but you need to get a rider. I've never done that. How do I do that? Who do I talk to? Spend the time now. Call your insurance company saying, how does it work to get a rider? How long does it take? What email address do I send? Can you give me some ideas how much it typically costs, so that when the opportunity comes, you've got the process. You know the process. Study and understand your insurance policy on cargo liabilities, so that when things go down, do you have in your truck? Do you have your own company claim form to fill out? Right, you have to. If a claim happened, whether something in the product, do you have a claim form? Do you have a process? Of step 1 through 10. If something happens, are you going to take pictures, submit to who, And if you're if you're one carrier, right, and you have a $250 or $250,000 cargo insurance policy, and something happens, and maybe you were at fault, you're like, yeah, I screwed up. It happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your break point? If something, how much are you willing to tolerate for as a carrier? Because obviously, every time you make a claim to your insurance company, it affects your next year's policy, right? Sometimes not. Some policies may have, maybe your policy says you're allowed one claim where it doesn't affect you. You put two in, now you're affected. I don't know that. Yep. I don't. Maybe your one person's policy may say they have zero tolerance. Others will say, "Oh yeah, my policy says I'm allowed to put one claim in." Okay, but you put the one claim in. But how much? What's your deductible? It's, is your deductible 5,000? So that means that any claim less than 5,000, you're not going to put in. That's up to you to decide. All I'm saying is, you don't have to spend hours on it. How about 10 minutes a day? You got a 30-minute break every day. Either you could work out, train or something, or you can spend in that 30 minutes, you could do 10 minutes of something physical. You could do 10 minutes of preparing your to sell your services, and 10 minutes of spending time with studying your insurance policy. And then you got 10 minutes to go grab a coffee and go to the washroom. Maximize your time. I'm not saying that's exactly, I'm just giving that as scenarios. Break things down to small chunks. Doing daily over time will lead to success.
Yeah, I definitely believe in that. That's kind of what I've been preaching on everything, including stuff outside of freight. No, it's great. And here's going back to the music thing, the ability to improvise, adapt, and be flexible. Like, earlier you were talking about, where follow the money, right? Well, traditionally, and this is what's throwing a lot of people off right now. Traditionally, I can always send a truck to Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. No problem. I don't even have to look at what the market's doing because I'm getting out of there for a decent price. Then one day it stopped. And so I looked at the load ratios. I'm like, holy moly, you've got more loads coming out of Florida than you do Illinois in the van world. Now, that's the point that someone needs to take action. Like, wow, okay, so what I'm used to doing, what I've normally done for 8 years, is now all of a sudden flipped on its head. And so how do I adapt to that? And the ability to be flexible, like, the driver might have to realize, hey, guess what? You're not getting home this weekend because you're going to have to run the Southeast and you live up in the Northeast, or you're going to have to create a new lane. And that you got to that's where you go to your broker relationships. That's when you call your main broker and say, hey man, it looks like the Southeast is doing pretty well, and I live in New York State. Is there something that you can help me recognize there? And that's kind of what I was going to go over on the 123 low board today, was the, like, how to find a new lane when your lane dries up. And we'll do that Wednesday, so it's not a big deal. I appreciate your insight, but what I'm saying is, what I'm seeing owner operators go under for right now is the lack of preparation, the lack of knowledge that this was going to happen, even though everybody's been telling them it's going to happen. And then third, the lack of flexibility, being able to adjust and overcome. So, like, as a company driver, my dispatcher always liked me because I took care of things on my own. I didn't call him for every little tiny problem that we had. Now I would call him, hey, this went down, and so I did this, and this. And like, oh wow, cool. So you didn't even have to bother me, right? Like, yeah. Well, way to go. And then I'd be rewarded the better loads because I took care of things. I knew how to improvise. And so structure and structure and preparation and practice is important, like you've pointed out, and a lot of people don't think of it like that. But also the ability to improvise, because when the market that you've done for 5 years takes a big dump and volumes are down 55%, like Trendlines has mentioned, you got to be able, now your rehearsal kicks in, but you got to have the flexibility to open your mind up and say, okay, how can I do things different? And then you bring that up with, find the freight forwarders, find the new brokers. You sent me a couple of brokers last night, and I saw that, and I've looked them up, and I'm definitely going to execute what you've said.
And
But
from today's call as well.
yeah, and so to me, that's the most important thing right now is okay. So because think about this, you could be the best budgeter, you've prepared for this, for this downturn, but at the same time, what if what you have disappears? And that's the danger of dedicated freight is you establish this business around this freight that you've been doing for 3 years, and all of a sudden the factory closes. Now what? That's what the ELD did. So when they mandated ELDs, the people that waited until midnight that day to switch over, they struggled for the next year because they did not prepare themselves. And suddenly these 700-mile, 800-mile loads that they can do in one shot were no longer legally accomplishable. And so enter somebody like me that's been on e-logs for over, pretty much all but 2 years of my career, and I had no problem adjusting to that. It's
Well,
and so I was able to take that person's normal freight, and then the brokers had trouble adjusting to that as well. They're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, here's what you're going to do, here's how it needs to be, and the ones that were willing to listen worked with me, and boom, I didn't struggle to find freight at that
but I'd
point.
say one of the other things, like right now, I'm training. Because I have a sub agent, plus I have a freight auditor. I had to get a different freight auditor. My other one was fortunate because I only do them part time, but my other one was excellent, and that person was able to get a full time job in the previous field that they were in, and so they did their justice for me for almost 2 years. And in fact, I found this person who was my actual second candidate from 2 years ago. This person was great, but this other person was just a better fit at that moment in time. And so I'm training, and I've had to adapt. I'm investing time. It takes time. So, like as an example, so if you're trying to grow your carrier and get up, so I've been busy, if anyone's seen my channel, I have been posting. Why? I've been busy, really busy between training and the loads I've got for my customers. I've been swamped. I'm backlogged. And so I could have spent time just trying to get the backlog done. Instead, I prepared myself for this morning so that when my freight auditor starts, they're new. I have a game plan that's going to teach them so that it's going to save me time.
Mm-hmm.
I could just do it, but that's not the way to do it. So I'm using loom.com to create videos. I'm using Evernote to create my manual, and the hybrid approach of both, so that this person I share the information to both. Then they have the opportunity to come back to me. We've set up last week. We confirmed, because the way I used to do it with the other auditor, this person doesn't work quite the same. So we made adjustments. How we're going to communicate back and forth, how we're going to share this, what we're doing, right? I have all the steps. So how well can each of you train that? Establishing the processes of your business, write them down. And then sometimes, I know that, Steve, you're doing your 30-day walking challenge, and I'm all for that, because walking or working out, your level of intensity, everyone is different. There's no right, there's no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I find when you do something like that, an activity for 30 minutes of walking or whatever level it is, brings clarity. And if you haven't worked out for years, if I say things like AMRAP, if you don't know what an AMRAP is, do you know what a Tabata is? Do you know what a ladder is? If you don't know any of those things, AMRAP is as many rounds as possible. Tabata, it's 20 seconds on, 10 seconds of rest, and you do that for 8 rounds, right? So there's ladders where you do 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest, then 45 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest. So you could do simple things like on your walk to change it up so that you don't get bored in that 30 days. Maybe for 20 seconds, you walk faster, then slow it down for 10 seconds. And do that 8 times just to get some variety. That's all it is, just a slight change. Walk backwards for 20 seconds, and then turn forward. Walk backwards for 20 seconds, turn forward. And sometimes when you do these things, something that's been egging you, when you've done something like that, then you come back and have a shower and you get that fresh, all of a sudden you get clarity. Those problems that you're bogged down on, sometimes that change, that going outside, can bring the clarity. So establish your processes, practice, bring your business to the next level, practice your technique, which means, do you have a vision? Do you have values? If you don't, start to establish that. And if you're an owner operator for a carrier, when's the last time you've, like, I'm not going to point out any carriers, but you actually got together as a group and kind of like a mini conference? And if you can't get together as a group physically, it doesn't cost much. Purchase a Zoom for a month, because when you do the Zoom, you get, because the free Zoom only gives you 40 minutes. Buy the other one. You can set up a Zoom call for your owner operators, but have a plan, right? Get together, pre-list some questions, like make a topic, say, okay, we're going to do session 1 for an hour, and have questions, so that if someone is out of the owner operator group, maybe someone's the expert reefer person, and they can present some information, discuss, even though you're all independent owner operators, but come together to bring your knowledge together. Have you done that recently? It's amazing when you get together, because the reason I'm saying this, I get together with our brokerage once a year, and next week is our time. And we get together, see agents, we get to see the management. And this time around, they're using some nice technology, the sessions. They have some breakout sessions where exactly what I'm talking about. They have the topic. We're pre-posting the questions that we would like to see, and sure, there'd be some opportunity for on-the-fly stuff. But the idea is they're setting up the stage so that they're bringing focus to the topic, so that they can stay focused for that time period of that panel session. And they have different things going on, different sessions throughout the weekend. So it's a fantastic opportunity. So and when you come out of that, you get inspired, because you're talking to other people and finding out what they're doing. How are they adjusting? How are they changing? It's amazing when you can get together with, similar-minded people, and it's a chance to, just like you guys go to Mid-America, but it's taking it a deeper level, because Mid-America, it's just so busy and so big. But if you're specific to what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, you actually get together. And it doesn't, in person is best, but if you can't do it, do a Zoom call. It's amazing. Instead of don't make it a bad session, just make it a positive sharing of knowledge and how we're adapting, how we're changing.
Let me ask you a question. So I hear a lot of people say, well, CDN's got great advice, great knowledge, but man, that's too much for a one truck operation like me. So I don't even think it matters. What message do you have to someone that might say that to you?
Well, if it's too much for you, then why did you want? I'd go back to the beginning of the why. Why did you go out and get your own authority if you weren't prepared to do that? Because did you study enough to understand that if you have your own authority and you came into this game because you had a connection, maybe there was, and I can use this as an example. There was a carrier that I used to give a lot of loads to, and he came out, he bought the truck and the authority from a guy that was retired. And this guy had a contract picking up in Tacoma and would come back to Alberta. It was hardwood flooring. So he would go there, and I met him because one day he found one of my loads going back. At the time I was selling a load from near Edmonton going back towards Seattle, it was real close to where he was picking up. And so I actually met the guy, took him out for dinner, and we had a nice chat. And when we did that, boy, I had an excellent relationship. So the way it worked was, he had this contract where literally he set up, he was great, because he would drive down to the shipper in Tacoma, and he'd back in. They'd leave his cord out so he can plug into the shore plug in his truck. There was a gym down the street. He bought a membership. That's how he'd do his showers. And there was a Starbucks up the street, and that's where he'd get his coffee. But he brought his own food. So then what he started doing, these loads would come to Edmonton, and through our connection, basically he would call me or I'd call him, and I'd say, yeah, I got a load for you. Then he would stay the night, because he always came through on Thursdays, and my loads were always picking up on Fridays. Mm-hmm. So if I had the load for him, he'd stay the night, and then he'd pick up, he'd go home, and then leave on Sunday, make my delivery Monday, and then he just wash, rinse, repeat that's all he did. He traveled basically 4 days a week. He didn't go all over the place. He had a specific, and then eventually he stopped using me, because through his connections on there, he ended up getting a return load out of Vancouver that brought him back to Alberta, and he didn't have the time for my stuff. So because he stayed in his lane and he stayed focused, and he had a plan, and he kept his cost low because he didn't eat out. He was healthy. He was working out at the gym. He had a niche market. He had a beautiful truck, dry van, but he just had a niche market. So the point is, if you came out during the high times or whenever you came out, if you've established your own little network of people and things are going the way you want them to go, then yeah, you don't need to do all that stuff. But if you're in the trenches and struggling from load to load to load, how can you bring that consistency? And that is by doing these things. I've shown you before that banana um, website. He's one guy. He's Don, right? With Go Bananas, gobananas.ca, I think it is. And I've shared that website before. It's also on DIY's, our 3-hour session we did. I showed that on there. And Don is a one truck operator, but he's got just one page website. Why? Because it explains his history, it shares his services. He's got, with your LinkedIn profile, just these little details. How can you connect yourself? Because if you don't have and the other thing I'd say is, why does it matter when you're a one truck carrier to have all these things? Goes back to what I said at the beginning, your presentation, how you're perceived. If a broker searches your company name, finds you on LinkedIn, and then sees your history that, hey, you worked as maybe you were doing something before. I don't know. Maybe you were a welder before. Maybe whatever you did before, and then you got into trucking and showed that you worked at a carrier for 5 years, and then you went out and got your own authority. So you see that you were at Sunburst for 5 years, then you're this at 5 years, and then this at 5 years. Guess what? You're showing consistency. You did things in logical steps. Now you look at the website. He's professional. If I call you and you don't pick up the phone, you have a professional voicemail. Hi, this is Rob with ABC Trucking. I'm currently driving. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you. Or maybe you set up, I've talked on this before on DIYs, use Grasshopper, get a VoIP system. So you can press 1 for sales. You make it look like you're bigger than you are. Well, why would I do that? Well, 1, it can help you filter because the important messages will come to you, because you could even have it if you're a one truck operator. And if there's calls you don't want to miss, if you have that simple VoIP system, one phone number can allow you to have multiple extensions so that the important calls could maybe go to your wife if they're willing to take those phone calls. So you could have 1 for sales, 2 for dispatch, 3 for safety, or 3 for administration, or 3 for whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. So it just helps you filter. So this way, when you stop, you go to when you stop, then you deal with your voicemails. So the idea is that you've established that when I'm driving, I'm not going to be interrupted. My focus is driving, right?
Right.
So that you've established yourself as being a legitimate carrier in the player. So that's all it is that why does it matter? You need to make a presence so you can build networks. And through that, you might just be one truck and you have no plans of growing, never to add any more carriers, but the point is, because what if you lose that connection and you need to find someone else? You have all that steps in place, because guess what? Once you've done all this, you just have to wash, rinse, repeat to the next person you're building a network with. So, but we'll stop it there because I'm gonna have to get going.
All right, thank you, CDN. Your insight is much appreciated. I think it's more valuable than what people realize, and I appreciate your friendship and I appreciate your insight. Everybody, go check out CDN Freight Brokers channel.
I haven't been posting a lot there lately, but I'm still new at it. But I will get to it. Give me a couple of weeks. I'll be busy the next couple of weeks still. So.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So, all right. Thanks, CDN. Thanks for coming in, man. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good day, guys, and everyone else.
All right. So let me go over some comments here, and then we're going to end this feed. Let's see here. Pneumatic Brit, Wheel Burner, thanks for coming in. DIY Semis in the house. Thank you for coming in. Let's see, Nomadic Brit, Wheel Burner. Let's see, Cool Trucking, what's up? Let's see, my family history goes to a combo of Viking and Visigoth, a rather volatile mix. Says McGee, just call me Mr. Random. During the high times, my broker overpaid me $3,600. I called him and said, hey, thanks for the extra money. Now he is one of my best friends, got invited to their events, priceless. There you go, Mark. Let's see, Jose, what's up? Exactly right. Follow the money. Good morning from Ontario, California. California market was looking, volume-wise, was looking not too bad in the van world. Scorpion Trucker, everybody check out his channel. Good morning. Valuable information here that we can all work on to make our conversations more effective, thus helping our businesses. There you go. I'm going to skip over some of these. Shannon, good morning. Good to see you. You and your probably fishy smelling dog playing in the ocean. I strapped the bicycle behind the cab during the salt-free months because most DCs were business parks with lots of real estate to ride around on. Good deal. Who has ever said that Snorelord sounds nothing like owner ops? Sarcasm. Let's see. Why CDN? Because a lot of drivers start their own operation because for the freedom, not so much for the business. Going and doing what you want is very powerful lure to the owner operator world. And here's my comment to that, Cool Trucking, and that's why I started my business, right? But the more successful a person is as an owner operator, the more freedom you have. So, in my opinion, that should be one of the goals. So, Adam the trucker, good morning, drivers. I had a 1-800 number at one time. They shouldn't be in the business if they don't study the business. There's more to this than just racing to the next truck stop. CDN is correct. Let's see. Marnie, what's up? Great stuff. Thank you, Jackknife. Or don't thank me. Thank CDN because I haven't done anything. So, anyways, guys, no low board today. So, if you know, we'll do that Wednesday. Tomorrow there should be a, unless it's raining, there should be a walking live feed from the small channel Snorelord OG. Please check it out. Trying to get the numbers up on that. If I don't get it, if people try to contact me tomorrow, I'm going to be probably gone most of the day dealing with some stuff. So if I don't get back with you, don't take it personally. So I appreciate everybody coming in and watching the channel. And thanks for watching. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this. Share it out if you did. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Aggression turns the screw. Peace.